She gave her last bread to a forgotten old woman, and the Alpha Prince never forgave himself when the starving girl gave her last piece of bread to a confused old woman in the rain. She thought she was saving a stranger. Then the royal guards saw the woman's face and dropped to their knees in the mud. By midnight, the Alpha King had brought the girl to the palace. By morning, he called her his ward. And 8 years later, the prince who once mocked her, a street-born trash, would nearly die because she was the mate he had been forced to deny. Nora Wren had owned 3 things in the world when she found the old woman: a torn blanket, half a loaf of stale bread, and a stubborn heart that had survived every winter by refusing to become cruel. She was 14, thin from hunger, sharp-eyed from the streets, and used to being invisible. Then invisible girls survived longer. They could sleep beneath bridges, slip through market crowds, steal bruised apples from broken crates, hear things people said when they thought no one important was near. That night, rain had turned the lower city into black glass. The alleys of Duskfall ran with dirty water. Shopkeepers had bolted their doors. Carriages splashed past beggars without slowing. Nora had been heading back to the bridge where she slept when she saw the old woman standing in the middle of the road. She was barefoot. Her silver hair hung soaked against her face. Her fine cloak was torn at one shoulder. Her eyes stared at nothing. People hurried around her as if madness were contagious. The storm was getting colder. The river was rising. If no one helped her, she would not last until dawn. Nora knew exactly what it felt like to be looked at and left, so she crossed the street. "Come on," she said, taking the old woman's hand. "You cannot stand here." The woman did not answer. Her lips moved soundlessly. Nora guided her under the bridge, into the hollow between 2 stone supports, where she kept her blanket hidden behind a crate. It was not a home. It was only a place the rain did not reach first. But tonight, it was enough. The old woman sank onto a pile of sacks, shaking. Nora wrapped the blanket around her shoulders, then took out the bread. Her stomach clenched. She had planned to make it last 2 days. Instead, she placed it in the woman's trembling hands. "Eat," Nora said softly. "It helps when the world is awful." The old woman looked at the bread as if she had forgotten what food was. Then tears filled her eyes. "He's gone," she whispered. Nora crouched before her. "Who is gone?" "My mate." The word was strange in the woman's mouth. Sacred, broken. Then her eyes turned gold. Nora stumbled back so hard, her shoulder struck the stone. Shifter. Every child in Duskfall knew stories about shifters. Wolf-blooded nobles, alpha lords, kings who could change shape beneath a full moon. Creatures with glowing eyes, sharpened senses, and bonds so deep one mate's death could drag the other toward madness. Nora had never seen one closely before. She had certainly never given one her only food. Before she could decide whether to run, hoofbeats thundered above the sound of rain. Torches appeared at the end of the bridge. Royal guards in black and silver rode into the flooded street. Nora's blood turned cold. Royal guards meant taxes, arrests, and people being dragged away, for reasons too polished to argue with. One guard spotted the hollow. "You there," he called. "Move away from the wall. The river is rising." Nora stepped in front of the old woman. "We are fine." The guard came closer. Then he saw the woman's face. His sword fell from his hand. He dropped to one knee. "Your Majesty." Nora turned slowly. The old woman lifted her head. The gold in her eyes burned brighter. "Your Majesty," Nora repeated. The guard's face went white. "Step away from the Queen Mother." Everything happened at once. More guards rushed in. Someone seized Nora's arms. The old woman snarled. And the sound was not human. Her body shifted. Where a frail woman had been, a massive white wolf now crouched in the shadows, fur soaked with rain, teeth bared at the men holding Nora. The guards froze. Then a new voice cut through the storm. "Release the child." The command was quiet. The guards obeyed instantly. A man stepped into the torchlight, tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black cloak with a silver wolf clasp at his throat. His face was severe, beautiful in the way blades were beautiful, and his eyes glowed gold. When he looked at the wolf, "Mother," he said, lowering his hand, "it is over. We found you." The wolf whined. The sound was so wounded that Nora forgot to be afraid. The man's gaze shifted to her. "You brought her here." Nora swallowed. "She was cold. You fed her." She looked hungry. The guards looked horrified. By her bluntness, the man did not. He studied her for so long that Nora almost stepped back. Then his expression changed, not softened. Decided. "I am King Varek Thorn," he said. "You will come with us." Nora's heart lurched. "I did nothing wrong." "No," he said. "You did something rare." She looked at the old white wolf, then at the black carriage waiting in the rain. She should have refused. She should have run. But the Queen Mother pressed her wet muzzle against Nora's hand, and for reasons Nora would not understand until years later. King Varek looked almost pleased. The palace was too bright. That was the first thing Nora noticed. White marble, gold mirrors, glass chandeliers, polished floors that reflected her dirty bare feet, until she wanted to hide them beneath her torn skirt. She was taken first to the kitchens and fed until she nearly cried from embarrassment. Soup, roasted chicken, honeyed carrots, bread still warm from the oven. Nora ate like someone might take the plate away at any moment. No one did. After that came a bath. Maids scrubbed mud from her hair, trimmed her broken nails, and burned her old dress, while pretending not to smell it. Nora mourned the dress anyway. It had pockets. When they dressed her in a soft grey gown and led her through the palace corridors, she felt like a thief wearing someone else's life. The throne room was full. Nobles in velvet, ministers with silver chains, lords and ladies who looked at her as if she were a stain walking across the floor. The Queen Mother sat beside the throne, now in human form, pale but composed. Her name was Serafini. Her mate had died 2 nights earlier, and grief had driven her out of the palace in a fever. Nora had saved her without knowing it. King Varek stood from the throne when Nora entered. The room fell silent. "Nora Wren," he said, his voice carrying to every corner. "You protected my mother when my own guards failed to find her. You gave what little you had when no one was watching. For that, the crown owes you more than coin." Nora did not know how to answer. "Thank you, Your Majesty." His eyes gleamed. "There is no family waiting for you in the lower city." Her mouth went dry. "No. Then from this day forward, you will live under royal protection. As my ward." The room stirred. Nora stared at him. "You're what?" A few nobles laughed, not kindly. Then a boy stepped forward from beside the throne. He looked about her age, perhaps 1 year older. Dark hair, sharp cheekbones. A prince's pasture. His eyes were the color of storm clouds before lightning. When he first saw her, he went utterly still. Nora saw it. A flicker of shock, something like recognition. Then King Varek said, "Cashin, come forward." The boy's expression closed. Just like that, the softness vanished. Prince Cashin Thorn looked at her as if she was something brought in on the bottom of a boot. "Father," he said. "This is Nora," the king said. "She will be raised here." Cashin's gaze swept over her borrowed gown, her damp hair, her thin wrists. Then his lip curled. "You brought home a gutter girl because she shared bread." The word struck hard enough that Nora almost stepped back. The court laughed quietly. King Varek's mouth twitched, not in anger, only in satisfaction. Nora noticed. Cashin noticed too. His jaw tightened. Nora lifted her chin. "And you are the prince?" His eyes narrowed. "Yes. That is unfortunate. I thought princes were supposed to have manners." The laughter changed, sharper, more delighted. Cashin's face flushed. King Varek looked almost entertained. "Perhaps she will teach you something, son." The prince's eyes met Nora's. There was hatred there. No, not hatred at all. Fear wearing hatred's coat. Nora did not know the difference then. She would learn it too late. Life in the palace was war with better shoes. Nora learned that quickly. She learned which fork to use, how to curtsy, how to read court expressions, how to speak softly when insulted so the insult returned sharper. She learned that nobles could say cruel things with smiles and call it breeding. She learned that servants knew more truth than ministers. And she learned that Prince Cashen was impossible. He mocked her accent. She mocked his posture. He called her stray. She called him decorative. He said she smelled like the lower city. She told him he smelled like expensive loneliness. The court adored their quarrels. King Varek encouraged them. That should have been the first warning, but Nora was too busy surviving to understand that a king could use laughter as a leash. Queen Mother Serafini was the only person who saw too much. She invited Nora to tea. When the court became unbearable, she taught her the names of the old Wolf families. She explained mate bonds in a voice soft with grief. A true mate is not ownership, Serafini said one winter afternoon, while snow pressed against the windows. It is recognition. The soul knows before the mind has time to argue. Nora looked down at her cup. Can a human have such a bond with a shifter? Serafini was quiet. For one heartbeat too long. It has happened. Nora looked up. The Queen Mother smiled softly. Rare things are still real. Nora did not ask why Serafini watched Cashen whenever he entered a room after Nora. She did not ask why the prince always knew where she was before she spoke. She did not ask why her own chest felt too tight whenever Cashen left. Some questions were doors. Nora had learned to distrust doors that opened too easily. Years passed. Nora learned to be useful. That was safer than being loved. At 22, she could stand beside King Varek during foreign receptions and whisper which envoy was lying. She could remember grain tariffs, marriage alliances, old grudges, and the names of everyone a careless noble insulted after too much wine. Varek praised her in public. He called her clever, his little raven, his sharp-eyed ward. Cashen called her none of those things. He had grown tall, broad-shouldered, and beautiful enough to make the court stupid. His dark hair fell carelessly over his brow. His storm-grey eyes could freeze a room. When he shifted, he became an enormous black wolf with silver along the spine, and eyes like burning amber. Nobles worshipped him. Ladies tried to make him smile. He rarely did, except sometimes, when Nora insulted him just right. Then the corner of his mouth would move. Barely, a private defeat. She collected those moments like stolen coins. She hated that she did. At a midsummer banquet, everything began to break. The hall glittered with chandeliers. Foreign diplomats from Valma filled the long tables. The kingdom needed their trade routes. Everyone knew it. King Varek had been meeting with them for weeks. But, for the first time since Nora became useful, he did not ask her to listen at doors. That worried her. She stood near a tall window with a cup of wine she had not touched, watching the southern envoy speak too closely with Lord Fenwick, one of the king's oldest advisors. They have mentioned salt roads twice, she murmured when Varek passed near her, and the envoy keeps looking toward the prince. The king did not turn. Very good, Nora. Am I still meant to observe? Enjoy the banquet? That was not an answer. Across the room, Cashen stood near a marble pillar, while Lady Brienne leaned toward him, laughing at something he clearly had not said. Nora watched longer than she should have. Cashen's gaze suddenly cut across the room. Caught, Nora lifted her cup in mock salute. He narrowed his eyes. Before she could look away, Lord Theo Ashford appeared at her side. He was kind, handsome, and harmless in the way second sons of good families often were. Lady Nora, he said, would you honor me with a dance? Cashen moved before Nora answered. He crossed the room with the cold grace of an incoming storm. No, he said. Theo startled. Nora turned slowly. Excuse me. Cashen did not look at her. She's busy. I am not. You are now. Nora smiled sweetly. Are you worried I will step on his feet instead of yours? Theo tried to laugh. Cashen did not. His eyes were fixed on the young lord. What are your intentions, Cashen? Nora warned. Theo bowed quickly. Only a dance, your highness, a dance. With the king's human ward. Cashen's voice was quiet enough to be lethal. Your family would never permit a match. So if you are not serious, stop circling her like entertainment. The word human cut through the air. Nora's face went hot, then cold. She had always known what she was in this palace. Grateful, useful. temporary. But hearing Cashin say it, hearing him draw the line before witnesses, turned every old fear into a blade. Theo looked embarrassed. Lady Brienne smiled into her glass. Nora set down her wine. "Thank you for explaining my worth to the room, Your Highness." Cashin's face changed. "Nora." She walked away before he could say more. For 3 days, she avoided him. The palace was large enough for most people to disappear. Not from Cashin. He appeared in hallways, at the training yard, outside the library, in the gardens where she tried to breathe. Each time, Nora turned away. Each time, his expression grew darker. On the 4th night, Lady Brienne ended what Cashin had begun. The court held a masquerade for the Valma delegation. Nora wore a blue dress Serafini had chosen, simple but cut well enough that, even she had stared at the mirror. For one foolish moment, she had felt beautiful. Then she saw Theo in a corner with Lady Brienne. Brienne's voice carried just enough. "Did you really think my cousin would court the king's rescued charity case?" "He was only being kind." Theo flushed. Nora stopped. The room seemed to tilt. Brienne turned, pretending surprise. "Oh, Nora, you heard." The first tear came before Nora could stop it. Then Cashin was there. He moved so quickly that several people gasped. He caught Brienne by the wrist, not cruelly, but firmly enough that she paled. "Apologize." Brienne's lips parted. "Your Highness, I only meant, apologize." The room had gone silent. Brienne looked at Nora with hatred behind her fear. "I am sorry." Cashin turned to Theo. "You'll leave court tonight." Theo bowed, shaken. Then Cashin took Nora's arm and pulled her through a side door. The hallway was empty. Candlelight flickered along stone walls. Nora yanked free. "Do not touch me." Cashin turned on her. "Why do you let them near you?" She stared at him. "What? You know what they are. You know how they speak. Yet you smile at them as if one scrap of attention is worth being humiliated." The words hit the tenderest place. Nora's breath broke. "I thought someone might want me, without being ordered to tolerate me." Everything in him changed. The anger drained from his face. What remained was worse. Pain. Raw, unhidden. "Nora," he whispered. She covered her mouth, but the sob came anyway. "I am tired," she said. "I am tired of being grateful. I am tired of knowing every kindness can be taken back. I am tired of you reminding me I am human, when I have spent 8 years trying to belong somewhere." Cashin stepped closer slowly, as if approaching a wounded animal. "I was not reminding you. That is what you said to him about me." His hands lifted, then stopped in the air between them. "Because if he wanted you, truly wanted you, I would have killed my own envy and let him try, but he did not. Men like Ashford want pretty rebellion before supper and obedient wives. Before winter." She stared through tears. "That does not explain why you sounded disgusted." Cashin's jaw clenched. "Because if I did not sound cruel, everyone would hear how much it mattered." Nora went still. He looked at her then. Really looked. His eyes had shifted gold. "Do not look at me like that," he said roughly. "Like what?" "Like you might understand." His control snapped. He took her face in both hands and kissed her. For half a second, Nora was too shocked to move. Then everything inside her answered. His mouth was warm, desperate. Nothing like his cold words. She gripped his coat and kissed him back with years of anger, longing, and all the loneliness she had never dared to name. A sound broke from him, almost a growl, almost a plea. "Nora." The ballroom doors opened at the end of the hall. Applause burst through. King Varek's voice rang out. "If I may have everyone's attention." Cashin jerked back as if struck. The gold vanished from his eyes. His face closed so completely that Nora felt the loss like a door slamming. They returned to the ballroom separately. On the platform, King Varek stood beside a beautiful foreign princess, with silver blonde hair and a white gown. Cashin moved to his father's side, as if walking toward execution. Varek smiled at the court. "Tonight, we honor the alliance between Duskfall and Valma. Raise your glasses to the engagement of my son, Prince Cashin Thorn, and Princess Ilawan of Valma." The room erupted. Nora could not breathe. Cashin stood beside Ilawan, pale and silent. He did not look at Nora, not once. That was what broke her. The kiss had not been a promise. It had been a mistake he could bury before witnesses. Nora left the ballroom before anyone saw her cry. She made it to the old garden wall, where wild forest pressed against palace stone. She climbed over, tearing her dress on the broken edge, and ran, until the music disappeared behind the trees. When she finally collapsed beneath an oak, the sobs came hard enough to hurt. Nora. She looked up. Cashin stood a few paces away, breathing fast. Of course he had followed. Of course he would not let her suffer cleanly. Go back to your fiancée, she said. I do not want her. Congratulations. You still have her. She's a treaty. She's a person. Shame flickered across his face. I know. Then stop speaking as if everyone around you is a chain except yourself. He flinched. The truth landed. Good. It should. I went to my father, Cashin said. Before the announcement, I told him I would not do it. Nora froze. He knew. He knew before I did. What does that mean? Cashin's eyes found hers in the dark. I felt you the day you came to the throne room. I was 15 and stupid and terrified. I looked at a hungry girl in a borrowed dress and knew. Nora's heart stopped. Knew what? His voice broke. That you were mine. The forest fell silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Nora stepped back. No. Yes. No. Do not do that. Do not make this fate after calling me street-born 4 years. I called you that because my father watched every reaction I had to you. The words were too strange to enter cleanly. Cashin moved closer, but stopped before touching her. He brought you to court because he saw the bond stir in me. He used you to keep me obedient. Every time I argued with him, he reminded me that wards can be dismissed, that humans can be sent back to the streets, that accidents happen in cities. Nora felt sick. Why did you never tell me? Because you were safe as long as you believed I hated you. She laughed once. Broken. No. I was lonely. The answer wounded him more deeply than anger would have. His shoulders sank. I know, you do not. I do, he said. Because I was lonely beside you. Tears blurred her vision. You let him announce an engagement. He threatened you. He always threatened me. You just did not let me know. I was trying to protect you. Do not call my ignorance protection. The bond between them stirred then. Nora did not understand how she knew. Only that something silver and aching stretched from her chest toward his. Cashin felt it too. His breath changed. He took one step. She took one back. Do not, she whispered. He stopped. That was the first mercy he gave her honestly. I love you, he said. Nora closed her eyes. The words should have been everything. Instead, they arrived too late to be trusted. You should have loved me with the truth. Then she ran. She would have disappeared into the forest completely if Sir Talon had not found her. Talon was the one friend Nora had made outside Seraphine's rooms. A young knight with too much honesty for court and too little ambition to be dangerous. He found her near the river, shaking in a ruined dress, and said nothing. For almost a minute. Then he took off his cloak and placed it around her shoulders. I know a place, he said. Nora looked at him through tears. Do not tell anyone. I will cover your tracks. He knew what that meant. A shifter could follow scent. A true mate could follow more than that. Talon took her to a cottage his family owned deep beyond the cedar ridge. A small stone place with ivy on the walls and smoke curling from the chimney. Nora slept for 2 days. Then for a week, she barely rose. The maid, Anya, brought broth and clean linens. Talon visited every few days with news he chose carefully. The palace searched. Cashin grew difficult. The king was furious. Princess Ilawan remained inside the guest wing. Nora listened without moving. A month passed. Then nausea came. At first, she blamed grief. Then the smell of soup made her retch. Then her body changed in quiet, unmistakable ways. The village doctor came on a grey morning, examined her gently, and smiled, with more caution than joy. You are with child. Nora stared at him. After he left, she sat by the window, with both hands over her stomach. Cassian's child, the prince's child, the future scandal of 2 kingdoms. She should have felt panic first. Instead, love came, fierce, terrifying, immediate. The child was innocent of every adult failure around it. "I will protect you," she whispered. She meant it, even if she had to disappear forever. 2 more months passed. Her strength returned, but only barely. She walked in the small garden with one hand over the small curve beneath her dress. She told the baby stories about markets, rain, the Queen Mother's tea, and how terrible palace shoes were. She did not speak of Cassian, not aloud. Then one evening, someone pounded on the cottage door. Nora opened it and froze. Cassian stood on the threshold. He looked ruined, dark shadows beneath his eyes, unshaven jaw, skin too hot, gold flickering wildly in his eyes. "Nora," he breathed. Then he reached for her like a drowning man. She stepped back. "No," the word stopped him. Barely. His hands clenched at his sides. "You vanished. You were engaged. I broke it." Her heart lurched. "When?" "The next morning. You did not come. I searched. Your night covered the trail. Talon was protecting me." "I know." His gaze dropped, stopped. His entire body went still. Nora knew the moment he understood. The air changed. His voice rose so sharply, she felt it in her bones. "Nora," he said, voice barely human, "are you carrying my child?" Her eyes filled. They could have discovered this together. They could have been frightened together, happy together. Instead, the knowledge stood between them like a wound. "Please leave," she said. He looked as if she had struck him. "Is it mine?" She looked away. That was answer enough. Cassian's eyes shone. "Why did you not tell me? You were supposed to marry Lawan." "I told you I did. Not want her. You told me many things after years of saying the opposite." He flinched. "Nora." "No," she said, her voice shaking. "You do not get to arrive feverish and beautiful and expect my fear to disappear. Because yours finally became visible." His face crumpled for 1 second, before he controlled it. "I am dying without you." The words should have sounded manipulative. They did not. They sounded factual. Her hand tightened over her stomach. "What? Bonding sickness. I held it back 4 years. I thought I could survive it if I kept distance. Then you left." Nora's breath caught. Cassian swayed. She moved before thinking, catching his arm. His skin burned, too hot. His veins glowed faintly beneath the skin, silver and inflamed. "Nora," he whispered, for a heartbeat. She almost let him fall into her arms. Then memory returned. Every insult, every silence, every withheld truth. She released him. "Go back to the palace. Find a healer. There is no healer for this." "Then find one anyway." He stared at her. "I love you." The words broke something fresh. Nora stepped inside and closed the door. She held herself still until she heard him leave. Then she slid to the floor and sobbed into her hands. Talon found her there an hour later. He listened without interrupting. Then he said the one thing she did not want to hear. "Nora, if he's truly sick from an incomplete bond, anger will not change the body. I know. You are human. You might survive a broken bond." She looked up sharply. "Might? I am not a healer." He said he was dying. Talon's expression darkened. He looked close. Fear opened inside her. Not gentle fear. Animal fear. She closed her eyes. At first, there was only her own panic. Then she felt it. A thread. Silver and weak, fading. Pain moved through it, not hers. His. Nora stood so fast a chair fell behind her. "Where?" Talon grabbed his cloak. "Focus." She did. The pool led into the forest. Rain had begun again, light and cold, blurring the trees. Nora ran. Branches caught her skirt. Mud sucked at her boots. The thread faded with every step. "No," she gasped. "No," she gasped. She found him beneath an ash tree. Cassian lay unconscious on the wet ground, one hand pressed against his chest. His skin burned through his shirt. Silver marks crawled along his neck like cracked lightning. Nora dropped beside him. "Cassian." He did not answer. Talon arrived behind her, breathing hard. Gods. How do I help him? Talon swallowed. Nora, tell me, if this is bonding sickness, the only cure is completing the bond. Her body went cold. Claiming him, yes, and if I do not? Talon looked at Cassian. I do not think he survives the night. Nora's tears fell onto Cassian's face. She hated him. No. She hated what he had done. She hated the years stolen by fear. She hated the king who had made love into a weapon. But she loved Cassian. That was the most unfair truth in the world. Leave us, she whispered. Talon hesitated, then bowed his head and walked away. Nora leaned over Cassian. You should have told me, she said through tears. You should have trusted me enough to let me choose. He did not move. The silver marks crept higher. Nora pressed her forehead to his. But I will not let your father win by turning my pride into your grave. She kissed him, softly at first, then with everything she had buried under anger, loneliness, and fear. I love you, she whispered against his mouth. I hate that I do. I hate that you made it so hard. But I love you. Nothing happened. Terror clawed through her. She kissed him again. You are mine if you can learn to stop deciding for me. You are mine if you tell me the truth even when it costs you. Then you are mine if you come back and let me be angry. Without dying from it. A faint breath moved against her lips. Arms closed weakly around her. Nora pulled back with a sob. Cassian's eyes were open. Barely. Gold. Clouded but alive. Say it again, he whispered. Even dying. He was impossible. Nora laughed through tears. Bossy prince, please, that undid her. I love you. The bond opened. Not like lightning. Like a door that had been waiting 8 years for both sides to stop holding it shut. Warmth poured through her chest, meeting his fever, steadying it, softening it. Cassian gasped. His hand came to her stomach, then stopped, asking silently. Nora covered his hand with hers and placed it against the child. His face broke. Our baby. Yes. The silver marks faded slowly. Not gone, only retreating. Cassian closed his eyes and wept. Nora had never seen him cry. She did not look away. He needed to be seen in this too. When they brought him back to the cottage, he slept for almost a full day. Nora sat beside him, furious with relief. When he woke, the first thing he said was, I renounce it the throne. Nora stared. You woke up from near death and chose it as your opening. His mouth moved. Almost a smile. I feared you might leave. Before I explained, you have very poor instincts. Yes. The honesty startled her. He reached for her hand, then stopped short. May I? Nora gave it to him after a moment. He held it as if it were something sacred and breakable. My father wanted me on the throne, but only as a king he could control. You were his leash. Ilawan was his alliance. The bond was his secret. He thought, if I loved you enough and feared losing you enough, I would become obedient. Nora's throat tightened. And you. I became cruel instead. She did not correct him. He needed to sit with that. Cassian looked at her. I told myself every insult protected you from his attention. But protection without truth is only another cage. I understand that now. Nora's eyes burned. You hurt me. I know. You made me feel unwanted in the only place I had ever been safe. His face twisted. I know. I am still angry. I will not ask you not to be. That mattered. More than any apology. She looked down at their joined hands. What happens now? I stay if you allow it. I leave if you ask. I protect you either way. I will not return to my father's court unless you choose to go. With me, you would abandon the throne. For you, no, Nora said. He flinched. She squeezed his hand. Not for me. Never say that. I will not be the excuse men use when they run from duty. Cassian stared at her. Then what do you want? She placed her other hand over her stomach. I want our child to grow in a kingdom where love is not a bargaining chip. I want your father unable to hurt us. I want the truth written where everyone can read it. Cassian's eyes slowly sharpened. The prince returned, not the cold one, the real one beneath him. Then we take the throne properly. Nora laughed once, stunned. We. His hand tightened. If you choose me. She looked at him for a long moment, then said, Ask better. Cashin swallowed. Nora Wren, will you let me stand beside you while you decide what kind of family and kingdom our child deserves? That was better. Not perfect, but better. Yes, she said. The Queen Mother arrived 3 days later. Serafini came to the cottage in a plain carriage with 2 guards, 1 maid, and no patience for dramatic secrecy. Nora opened the door and found the old woman she had once wrapped in a torn blanket standing beneath the ivy. Serafini smiled. There you are, my brave girl. Nora burst into tears. She hated herself for it. Serafini hugged her anyway. Cashin appeared behind Nora, still pale but standing. Grandmother. Serafini looked at him, then at Nora's stomach, then at their joined hands. Her smile turned fierce. Good, at least one person in this family has finally done something honest. They sat by the fire while rain tapped the windows. Serafini told them the truth King Varek had buried. He had not taken Nora in out of gratitude. Not only gratitude, he had seen the bond stirring Cashin the moment Nora entered the throne room. He had known a human mate would make the prince vulnerable before the court. So he kept Nora close, praised her, fed her, educated her, not as kindness, as leverage. He believed the throne required obedience more than goodness, Serafini said. He was wrong. Nora felt cold, despite the fire. All those years, Serafini reached for her hand. I never forgot what you did for me under that bridge. Never. Your kindness was real, even if his reward was poisoned. Cashin sat very still. What about Elawan? Princess Elawan has already left the palace, Serafini said. She sent a message. She prefers not to marry a man visibly dying of love. For someone else. Nora almost laughed. Seraphine's eyes gleamed. She's more sensible than most diplomats. What does my father intend? Cashin asked. To name your cousin heir if you do not return. Cashin's face hardened. Darian, yes. Nora knew the name. Lord Darian Thorne was charming in the way snakes might be charming. If given etiquette lessons, he will be worse, Cashin said. Much worse, Serafini agreed. Which is why I came. Nora touched her stomach. You want us to return? I want you to choose with full knowledge, Serafini said. The people love the story of the girl who saved the Queen Mother. The nobles fear the bond because it is sacred. The succession now runs through both of you and the child. Varek can rage, but he cannot publicly deny a completed mate bond without turning every Wolf house against him. Cashin looked at Nora. No, she lifted a brow. You have not heard me speak. I know that look. What look? The one. That means I am about to lose an argument. Serafini smiled into her tea. Nora turned to Cashin. I am tired of running from men who make decisions in rooms I am not allowed to enter. His face softened. You are allowed anywhere I am. No, I am allowed anywhere I choose. He bowed his head. Yes. That was the moment she knew he had changed. Not because he loved her, because he corrected himself. They returned to the palace at dawn 5 days later. Nora wore a deep green gown that made her look less like the king's charity and more like a woman no longer asking permission to exist. Cashin rode beside her, black cloak fastened with the silver wolf of the royal house. Seraphine's carriage followed behind them. At the palace gates, crowds had gathered. Rumor had moved faster than horses. The prince had returned. The human ward carried his child. The mate bond was real. The king's alliance had failed. By noon, the throne room was full. King Varek sat on the throne, expression carved from fury and pride. Lord Darian stood beside him, smiling too smoothly. Nora saw the resemblance at once, not in face, only in hunger. Varek looked at Cashin. You disappoint me. Cashin stepped forward. I know. The king's face tightened. You abandoned your crown. I refused your leash. A shock moved through the room. Varek's gaze shifted to Nora. You. Nora held still. 8 years of court lessons kept her spine straight. 8 years of street survival kept her eyes clear. You were given shelter, food, education, and protection. This is how you repay it. Cashin growled. Nora touched his sleeve once. He stopped. Good. Let the room see that. I repaid kindness with loyalty, Nora said. Unfortunately, Your Majesty confused kindness with ownership. The court went silent. Varek rose. You forget who raised you. No, I remember exactly. Queen Mother Serafini comforted me. The tutors educated me. The servants fed me. Prince Cashin wounded me. You used me. Darian's smile faded. Varek's eyes flashed gold. You ungrateful little. Seraphine's cane struck the marble. The sound cracked through the hall. Careful, Varek. The king went still. Serafini stepped forward, old, silver-haired and still fierce, regal enough to make every noble straighten. I was lost in the rain. My mate had died. My mind was broken by grief. This child had nothing and still fed me. You brought her here under the banner of gratitude, then turned her into a tool against your son. Varek's face darkened. You know nothing of ruling. I know that a king, who must threaten pregnant women to command his heir, has already lost authority. A ripple moved through the room. Nora almost forgot to breathe. Cashin took her hand, publicly, deliberately. My claim remains, he said. I renounce it under coercion. My mate was threatened. My child was endangered by old Wolf law. That renunciation is void. Darian laughed. A touching performance, but a human mate does not strengthen the throne. The room changed. Slowly, dangerously quiet. Cashin's eyes turned gold. Nora felt his rage through the bond. But before he could speak, Nora did. Then challenge me. Darian blinked. Varek narrowed his eyes. Nora stepped forward. If I am weak, prove it. If I am unworthy, expose it. Question me on trade law, border treaties, harvest levies, Wolf inheritance codes, household accounts, foreign alliances, or every insult ever whispered in this court, by people who thought a street girl was too stupid to listen. Serafini smiled. Cashin looked at her as if she had set the room on fire. Darian's jaw tightened. You are no noble. No, Nora said. I am worse for you. I remember what your laws cost people who cannot afford pretty language. For 1 hour, they questioned her. Darian first, then Lord Fenwick, then the Valmar envoy, who looked increasingly entertained. Nora answered all of them. Grain routes, marriage contracts. The hidden clause in the Valmar Treaty that would have given Darian control of the southern mines if Ilawan married Cashin and died without heirs. That final answer broke the room. Princess Ilawan, who had apparently returned with Serafini and kept herself hidden in the gallery, stepped into view. She's correct, Ilawan said. That clause was added without my knowledge. Darian went pale. Varek looked at his advisor. Fenwick looked away. Nora understood then. The king had not been the only manipulator. He had been surrounded by them. Some he commanded. Some commanded him by feeding his worst fears. Cashin turned to his father. You taught me love was weakness. You were wrong. Love brought her here. Love gave her the courage to leave me. Love forced me to become honest. And love just saved this throne from men you trusted more than your own blood. Varek's face cracked, only for a second. Under the king, there was an old man who had mistaken control for safety, until everyone around him became either weapon or enemy. Then the mask returned, but it was too late. The nobles had seen. The Queen Mother had spoken. The treaty fraud had been exposed. By sunset, King Varek signed a formal abdication in favor of his son. He did not do it gracefully. Few tyrants do, but he did it. Cashin became Alpha King before winter. Nora did not become queen immediately. She refused. The court nearly choked on it. Cashin only looked at her and waited. That was his new habit, waiting patiently. She liked it more than flowers. I will not wear a crown, because a bond made me convenient, she told the council. I will own what I hold. Serafini nearly glowed with approval. So Nora became royal advisor first, then trade minister. Then, after a year of making old nobles regret underestimating literacy learned in Alice, she accepted the crown. Cashin asked her in private, not as king. not before witnesses. In the garden, where they had first stopped lying badly and started speaking painfully, he stood before her beneath the moon and said, "Will you rule beside me? Because you choose it, not because I need it." Nora looked at him. The bond between them warmed. Their son slept upstairs, in Seraphine's arms, small and perfect and already stubborn. "Yes," she said. Cashin exhaled like a man, being forgiven by the future. "But if you ever hide the truth from me again," Nora added, "I will overthrow you politely." He smiled. "I would deserve it. Yes. I love you, I know." His smile widened. "Cruel woman, honest woman." He kissed her then. Slowly, carefully this time, with reverence learned the hard way. Years later, people still told the story simply. They said a starving girl fed the Queen Mother her last piece of bread and was rewarded. With a palace, they said she grew beautiful, captured a prince, and became queen. Those versions were pretty. They were also incomplete. Nora had not been rewarded. She had been used. Cashin had not been cruel because he hated her. He had been cruel because he was afraid, and fear does not excuse the wounds it leaves. King Varek had not been only evil. He had been grateful once, then controlling, then consumed by the idea that love made rulers weak. He learned too late that loveless power rots from the inside. And Seraphine, the old woman under the bridge, never forgot. Not the bread, not the blanket either, not the small hand taking hers when the entire city stepped around her grief. On the 10th anniversary of that storm, Nora returned to the lower bridge, not alone. Cashin came with her. So did their son, little Rowan, who had his father's grey eyes and his mother's suspicious stare. The bridge had changed, by royal order. The hollow beneath it had been transformed into the first shelter in Duskfall, where no child was turned away for a lack of coin. Warm lamps glowed beneath the arches. Fresh bread sat on long wooden tables. Blankets were stacked by the wall. Nora stood in the place where she had once hidden her only food, and felt the past move through her like rain. Rowan tugged her hand. "Mother, is this where you found great-grandmother?" "Yes." "Were you scared?" Nora looked at Cashin. He waited, always waiting now. "Yes," she said, "but I was hungry too. And sometimes hunger teaches you who else is hurting." Rowan considered that, with the seriousness of a future king. "Did she say thank you?" Nora smiled. "Not right away." Cashin touched the stone wall. "And because your mother helped her, she changed all our lives." Nora shook her head. "No, I changed one night. The rest took years." Cashin took her hand. "That is the truer version." Outside, rain began to fall. Soft this time, not vicious, not cold enough to kill. Nora watched people hurry through the street, then slow when they saw the shelter lights. Some entered, some only looked, but the door remained open. That mattered. Once, she had been a starving girl beneath a bridge with half a loaf of bread and no idea that kindness could be dangerous. Now she was queen, a mother, and a mate, a woman who had learned that love without truth could become a cage, but truth with love could open kingdoms. Cashin leaned close. "What are you thinking?" Nora looked at the bread on the tables, then at the rain, then at the boy who would one day inherit a realm built from all their mistakes and all their repairs. "I am thinking," she said, "that no one should have to be royal before they are worth saving." Cashin kissed her knuckles. "No one will, not while you rule." Nora let herself lean against him. For once, she did not worry who saw. The bond between them glowed warm and steady. Not a leash, not a secret anymore, not the frightened thread of two children, taught to hide what they felt. A promise remade daily. And beneath the bridge, where a starving girl once gave away her last food, the kingdom learned the lesson she had understood before any crown did. A small mercy can become a throne, but only if someone is brave enough to remember who was cold, who was hungry, and who stopped to help when everyone else walked past.